Welcome to this episode of Optimal Game State. Today, we're going to focus on getting Underworld Warbands onto the table for a game of Warcry. This is something that first appeared in 2021 Tome of Champions. These fighters were referred to as Bladeborn fighters. Somewhat confusingly, GW did actually produce a game called Bladeborn that was a cross between Underworlds and Warcry, which presumably grew into this. Unfortunately, a few months after the Tome of Champions came out, the new edition of the game was released, and while all the other fighters got updates, the Underworld Warbands did not. Since then, we've had a few turn up in White Dwarfs, but the consensus was that the older ones from the Tome of Champions were not legal anymore. That has now changed. In the most recent FAQ, GW confirmed that the Underworld Warbands and the Tome of Champions are legal to use. Great news. This adds over 150 new fighter profiles into the game, adding a lot of new options. Now, the fighters from the Tome of Champions are still using the old design principles. Pulling out White Dwarf 480, I can see that Sam Pearson and Dave Sanders, the game developers, talked a little about the changes they made for the new edition. So we're probably going to see a lot of these Bladeborn fighters weaker than the current existing ones, but we might also find a few gems where they should have been costed more. In this video, I'm going to give an overview of how to include Underworld's fighters into your warband, but I'm not going to look at the fighters. That's because I'm going to be doing separate videos for Chaos, Death, Destruction, and Order, going through each of the Underworld Warbands and talking about how they stack up with the current fighters. Rather than repeating this section about the rules over and over, we're just going to do it once in this video. Each of the Underworld's Warbands is part of an existing Warcry warband. For example, Kagra's Ravagers are part of the Slaves to Darkness warband. This means you can take Kagra as a leader or hero, and you can take Dar Kragon as a normal fighter in a Slaves to Darkness warband. They have access to all of the normal Slaves to Darkness abilities, at least the ones that they have the rune marks for. Unlike normal fighters, each of these fighters can only be taken once, which makes sense, they're named characters after all. They also have their own special rune mark unique to their Underworld's warband. On this card, you can see it beside the Slaves to Darkness symbol, while the GW versions have started adding them in along with the normal fighter rune marks. This gives them access to a few extra abilities. These are essentially added to the Slaves to Darkness ability list, but you need Kagra's Ravager's rune mark to use them. As Kagra is a hero, she can be taken by other warbands in the Chaos Grand Alliance. This means I can add her to my Iron Golems list as an ally. As an extra bonus, if you include a Bladeborn hero, you can then take fighters from their Underworld warband as fighters in your warband. So if I take Kagra, then I can also take Zarsha, Kragan, or Razek as fighter options. This is pretty big. It opens up a lot of options for warbands and can add some fighter variants that previously were locked into their own warband. They will still keep access to all of their Slaves to Darkness abilities, no matter what warband they end up in. If you're playing narrative, the same rules apply. You can take one as a leader, although as we'll see in a bit, it's usually a bad idea. You can recruit a Bladeborn hero when you complete the Secure a Powerful Ally quest. If they're in the same warband as yours, then you can take fighters as normal. But if they're outside your warband, then you can recruit the fighters after you recruit their leader. As all these are named fighters, they operate a little different in campaigns. They never make injury rolls. They just walk it off, I guess. They never make renown rolls, and they cannot gain any renown. They cannot have artifacts of power, although they can have lesser artifacts. If you do pick a Bladeborn leader as your warband leader, they can have that one heroic trait they start with. But as they cannot gain renown, that means they can only have that one heroic trait and can't get additional ones. So you're better off making another hero your leader. The majority of the Underworlds models released do have rules, but a few were missed. The Nethermaze warbands did not have any Warcry rules released, and a number of the easy-to-build kits for the Stormcast and Nighthaunts did get Underworld rules, but did not get Warcry rules. These are pretty generic models though, so they make good models for existing fighter profiles. And that's really everything you need to know about including these fantastic models in a game of Warcry. It's a pretty exciting time for Warcry fans, looking through all the options to find what fun combos we can find. Hopefully GW will get around to releasing the rules for the Nethermaze models and updating all the Bladeborn fighters to the new design approach. If you're planning on pulling out some of your Underworld's warbands, check out the Warcry card creator. It now has a drop down at the bottom with some pre-completed stats. Right now, I'm working hard on getting the videos for the individual Underworld warbands up, so there should be one going up with this video, and I'll break my normal weekly pattern to try get the rest up as soon as possible, so keep an eye out for those during the week. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week, I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible two-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.